fit this theme?
Wow. It's an intriguing question. So I think I would say it fits the theme by saying it the other way: tragedy and triumph. The tragedy was in Vietnam that this war that really had been going since the 1950s into the 1970s, which engulfed the country, both North Vietnam and South Vietnam, caused so many deaths, so many families affected, including my wife's family. And then there was great hope that the war would lead to peace, that there'd be a reconciliation, that those who were fighting under the North and communism and those in the South who were striving for a free society could reconcile, and everyone, since they were all Vietnamese, could live together. And then the tragedy came, starting with the agreement in June of 1973, the Paris Peace Accords, as they were called, so that all of the United States military would leave. And that led to a slow process by which the North got stronger and the South became more disadvantaged until March of 1975. And when, at that time, there were offensives by the North Vietnamese army in the South and large battles. And because now the North Vietnamese had superior military capability. They had more tanks, more troops, and there was no United States Air Force to hold them back. And suddenly the situation began to collapse rapidly between March 25th and then April 30th, the final day when the American embassy was evacuated and the North Vietnamese took over the South. All this terrible tragedy unfolded. And I was there. I was working at the White House on the National Security Council staff. And I remember flying to Saigon, to South Vietnam, in sort of a desperate last effort fact-finding mission. And when I was there, it was clear that the situation was hopeless. It was just a matter of time. When would the final collapse come? And there were really no preparations going on to evacuate anyone. I was so devastated by this because I thought there probably would be 1 million people at least who would want to flee from the South. I, on my own, secretly set up an evacuation system to try to help identify individuals who would be most at risk and get them out. But, and that system was used. And eventually, about 130,000 refugees managed to get out and flee. They were picked up at sea. Some were flown out in planes, flown to the Philippines and to Guam, and then on to the United States. And when that final day came, this terrible, terrible, tragic day, all of the sacrifices, 56,000 approximately American military deaths, hundreds of thousands wounded, several 100,000 Vietnamese military deaths, by more, than 1 million who were wounded or were war victims. in all of the fighting. And then suddenly it was over. And the 130,000, mostly all Vietnamese, but some small number of people from Cambodia and from Laos also escaped. And they had to begin completely new lives here in the United States. And there were some in other countries and other places in the world, France, Australia, just to mention a couple. And they had, like, first generation immigrants to America,